All right, so last week we were working on our chart here, and we had talked about things like being proactive in life versus being reactive in life, and the differences there. How a mindset of abundance can lead to good proactivity. A mindset of scarcity can lead to an attitude of reactivity. And if you have a reactive attitude or a scarcity mindset, then you're just never going to be at peace. You're never going to feel rested or content, and you won't have that kind of balanced spiritual life that we talked about a few weeks ago. So we read the feeding of the 5,000 miracle and saw how Jesus displayed a mindset of abundance, which helped him to have an attitude of being proactive and sharing and encouraging that sharing. So hopefully, as we develop that kind of mindset and attitude, we can spread it amongst our community, because a community, a whole community that has a mindset of abundance and an attitude of sharing is going to be so much stronger, because they help each other. And if this person needs this, or if that person needs that, or if you need something, that a neighbor will step in, or a friend, or a deacon, or this or that. That's the kind of community we want to build up. So that is that's the strength, the cohesion. Even in our previous topic, when we talked about ourselves on the inside being connected and integrated and balanced, we want that for our whole community. A sharing community is cohesive. They're in it together. They're there to help each other, walk the mile and bear the load, like the hymn says. But a community of scarcity will be the opposite. That's when you would have people kind of, giving the shifty eyes because they're paranoid. It's dog-eat-dog world out there. There's not enough to go around, so I gotta protect what's mine. I earned this. I'm scared of other people getting it. So what a fragmented community that would be if everybody in a neighborhood was like that. That's not going to be a pleasant place to live. I want to be somewhere where everybody walks around and says hello and how you doing and what you need. Can I give this to you? My neighbor just on Monday night texted me and said, we've got some fresh corn and tomatoes. Do you want some? And I thought he meant like this much, but he meant like this much. So we took some, I brought them to the mill site and gave them all out, and it was great. And that's what we want to have happen in a community based on an abundance mindset with a sharing kind of attitude. And while I was thinking about that miracle we read last week, the feeding of the 5,000, I came across an alternate interpretation of it that I had never thought about, but it sounded really neat. So I want to share with you and see what you think. Maybe part of that miracle of the loaves and fishes and of the 5,000 plus people that got fed, maybe part of the miracle was when Jesus and his disciples modeled the sharing that comes with an abundance mindset. It inspired other people in the crowd as well, so that more food then became available. And suddenly, the food that was available started to multiply as people opened their hearts, maybe opened their sacks. It said in the verse in that passage, they sat in smaller groups. And if that happened, that would also be miraculous in a way, that these strangers were sitting together and they said, gosh, I'm really hungry, but all I've got is a little bit of bread. And the person next to him said, well, we've never met before, but I've got a little bit of fish. Maybe we can share and both be fed and be satisfied. So that was a very fascinating interpretation. Have any of you all heard something like that in the past? It was really neat to think about. That maybe that was part of the miracle. Maybe Jesus provided the start of the miracle to start the spreading. Then people were so inspired, they thought, well, I can do that too. because I've got a little bit, and the next person had a little bit. That in itself would also be miraculous. So hopefully we can inspire more of that in our lives. And I got to see it a few times back in my former church. We had an ongoing food ministry to folks in more rural areas of our county who didn't have enough food. So we had kind of connections with local kind of food banks, and we would do a food day once a month. And whatever we kind of collected, we'd put out in the fellowship hall, and people would come in. And there were a number of times where we just didn't get a lot that month, and the people were still coming, and we would look at the table and we'd go, oh no, we're getting really slim here. I think we're going to have to start maybe giving people a little less, or eventually we're just going to have to turn folks away because we just don't have enough. And then a number of times at that moment, somebody would come in and they would say, I heard that you all give out food to families that need it. Well, I've got this box here, and I just thought I would share and add it so that you can give it out to help people. And we would just go, oh my gosh, we are experiencing a loaves and fishes kind of miracle right now. And it was just so wonderful. And that person didn't even know that, how the close call, that we were getting to. And it was just such a special feeling. It did feel like we were part of a little kind of miracle, because we were sharing what we had. This unknown neighbor down the road was sharing what they had, and we said, what is available? That's what Jesus did when he started that miracle. He said, well, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? We got some fish and bread? Okay, let's work with that. Let's see where we can go. And that's also, that's just a good way to build up good things and strong churches, strong communities, strong families, strong, even just like work resumes or experience. So what do we have? What do we have that's available? And there's a term for that that like community organizers use called ABCD, asset-based community development. And it is a very serious and helpful approach where you look at a community that's really suffering. Maybe it used to be like a mill town and the mill closed, or the local plant employed thousands of people and the plant moved or it was closed. So the community's really hurting, and they think, we just don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. Well, the community kind of strengthener group can say, hold on, what do you have available? What are your assets? What do you have? Let's work from there. And then that's where you build. You build from on top of what you have. Start with what you got, and then start building. So that was some of my thinking from the feeding of the 5,000 this past week, as I kept thinking about it and really enjoying that story and kind of seeing it from different angles and how it can inspire us to be a little more proactive, like Jesus was. So I've been thinking about our spectrum here that goes from constant stillness, where you're just inside and you don't do anything, all the way to the other extreme of constant activity, where you're always a busy bee, got to do everything. And we've been talking about how there's a sweet spot area that Jesus demonstrated that goes back and forth between prayerful meditation, thinking and praying and listening for God, and then helpful, productive action. You realize what you need, and then you do it. And then you think about how it's going, you listen for more direction from God, and then you do that. So there's that sweet spot area. But I've decided that the more I thought about that, I thought about abundance and scarcity. I want to change our spectrum. So let me erase some things, because I've kind of reshaped my thinking about it. I don't think it's a line. I think it's more of like a curve. So as we go this direction towards that kind of constant stillness extreme, I think it curves down. As we go this direction towards constant activity, I think that curves down too. So then we can put back up the words that we talked about last week. And here's where reactivity lies, in those extremes, and here's where being proactive lies. This is the extreme of constant stillness, and this is the extreme of constant activity. And I think that's true because the more I thought about it, the more these two extremes are both reactive ways of living. Either if you're constantly active, you think, oh no, the world is like this, so I've got to do this, I've got to fix this, I've got to take care of this because nobody else will, and I've got to do everything. On the other end, it's also an example of reactivity, because in the constant stillness extreme, you're saying, oh, the world's bad and it's like this, so I'm going to put up the wall, I'm going to shut the door, and I'm only going to care about what's in here. I'm going to let God do all the rest and just let God handle everything else, and I'm only going to sit in my hermit hut and just pray only, and just only think about kind of what's going on here and not get outside and do anything. That's also a reactive kind of attitude. So then we can add, that's where the abundance comes in. With the abundance kind of mindset, that's what leads to being proactive, and it's the scarcity mindset that leads to being reactive, because you think there's not enough to go around, so I need to lock all the doors and never leave and hoard all my rations to myself. Or on the other end, you think there's not enough people to get the stuff done, so I've got to do everything. And I was just kind of amazed at how similar those two extremes were. And tonight we're going to take those mindsets like abundance and scarcity, and we're going to take them out to their edges. We're going to let them run their course. We're going to follow their trajectory and see where they lead. We're going to take them out to their horizon. And when you have a mindset of abundance, it leads out to a horizon of resurrection. But when you have a mindset of scarcity, it only leads to just the dead end of death. It doesn't go anywhere. It's a dead end. If something is on your horizon, if it's your trajectory, then it affects the direction you're going, it directs what you do, and everything else about how your life is structured. But your horizon is so distant that we often don't even know what it is, or it might be so deep that we don't even notice. So we might not kind of think about what's our end horizon, resurrection versus the dead end of death. But that's what it really is. When people have those kind of mindsets, really that's what the end result is, whether they know it or not, because it's kind of so far off. Having death as your horizon is a worldly perspective. It's an immature kind of way of thinking, which is why you get so reactive, because you haven't kind of, we talked about this in the sermon, you haven't kind of raised yourself up to God's kind of perspective. It's a very kind of child-based way of thinking that, like, I need to get all the stuff, and if I don't get it, then I'll cry and whine to get my way, because that's the most important thing, is me getting the stuff that I want. I think most people in the world have that kind of outlook, whether they know it or not. I think that's pretty normal to have a reactive type of attitude that's based on a mindset of scarcity, that I don't have enough, I'm not going to have enough, whatever the enough is, whether it's time or money or energy or love or support or job or stuff or whatever it is. I think most people kind of have that mindset. They get used to living with it, so they don't really see it as strange. They get used to functioning in that mindset. So they manage in spite of the stress that comes with it. And we've talked about how the modern world is so stressful and so busy and so reactive. Well, there's a lot of stress that comes with that mindset because you're always, worried, and there's always something to be scared about. You think, I gotta hold on tight. Whatever I can scrounge, I gotta hold on tight and make sure that I don't lose it, or make sure nobody else gets it, because there's not enough to go around. But having resurrection as your horizon, pulling you in that direction, to let that happen, it's what we were talking about in the sermon on Sunday. It requires kind of letting go. To make resurrection your horizon, you have to let go of the world, and you really have to have faith. You have to have faith that it's going to happen, and that's what God is working on. We understand a mindset of scarcity because it's very materially based. It's what, I can see this, I can see that, I want more of this, and I don't want them to get that. But resurrection requires the faith, because it requires being sure of what we hope for, with evidence of things unseen. So that's why it's so hard to do. It's hard to have a mindset of abundance that leads to resurrection. Does that make sense? Yeah, Cosette, yeah.
I was thinking of the word hope. So you would say that what most people are, their hope score is not even existent.
Yeah.
And how sad. So we as caring Christians maybe could reach out, like if you visited someone who's, say, in a group home or other places, is to have them, they may not even know about hope.
Yeah.
They might be so depressed.
Yeah.
That their hope is gone.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something maybe we can think about as a community of people, a church family, and maybe think about that and ways to express it.
That's a great word, because it is so hard for people to kind of accept the ultimate horizon of resurrection, because, like I said, they can only see what they have and what they don't have, and they might not even know resurrection is possible, and they just know this is all I have, and it's not enough, and there's a hopelessness. Yeah, that's a really good difference. I'm gonna write that on here. Yeah. And we could see that in the like the disciples in the miracle of the feeding 5,000, where they said, "Are you kidding? We can't feed all these people." It didn't have the word hopeless in there, but you could read it in between the lines. He's like, "That'd take a day's wait, like a whole year of wages to feed all these people. You send them away, make them get their own food. It's hopeless. Like we're not going to do that. That's crazy. It's crazy." Yeah. What other differences that you can think about in the way that that those two kind of horizons would give to a person? Ways of thinking or acting or feeling. That's a good word about hope. That's great.
Well, there's another word is to dream, to have dreams about, and I say in reading the Bible that Jesus had so much hope, and he was trying to generate that, but the people got afraid, and then they would go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But he didn't give up with them. He kept.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that down so that the people were afraid, because they were living around here, but Jesus had that assurance. Yeah. Yeah, Dottie, yeah.
It seems like the word dream could also mean they have a vision.
Right.
They're able to project for something better ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it, but a vision.
No, that's,
Yeah.
Vision is,
Dreams and visions,
word.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think we know a lot of people with the scarcity and the death the reactive. I was just thinking of people that maybe that really is what they're living through, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah. You can kind of understand, you know, it's, no wonder. If that's what they think that's all there is, then sure, no, they're gonna be kind of more reactive and hopeless. Yeah, and fearful, yeah. If you really believe in resurrection, and it's hard, because it's not natural. If you really believe in resurrection, have that abundance mindset, then you're gonna have more assurance, like I've said, have more hope. You might see a dream or feel a vision that others do not, so then you will be able to take a little more of a leap of faith than others might not. You can take risks that others would think are risks, but that you don't see them as risks, because you have a little more of a resurrection mindset, a little more of a hopeful vision, so you can do things that other people might see as risky, and you're thinking, no, it's all right. It's a good thing to do. Kind of like you said with Jesus, he would do things and people just like, the disciples just didn't get it. And they're like, no, what are you crazy? No. And Jesus was like, that's fine. It's not a risk.
At the same time, Jesus had such an incredible sense of humor.
Yeah.
He had a way of saying things like, what?
Yeah.
And then following through.
Yeah. And we talked about that last week, that if you're more reactive, you'll just kind of get worked up and upset more easily. But Jesus, he kind of took it all in stride, and he would kind of do a little play on words, and I think by doing that, he would kind of melt any tension away. And they're like, oh, maybe you're right, Jesus. You got us there. You know, camel going through an island. You know, that's just crazy. Jesus, come up with crazy stuff. Yeah. And just kind of relax everybody. And he's just trying to help them kind of calm down and not be so reactive. Yeah. It is hard, and I want to keep saying that, because we all start out as kids in that kind of kid-based scarcity mindset of, I can only see my playroom, I can only see my house. This is all my world. You know, my toys and my parents are here, and when they leave, I start crying because they're not here, they're not right there in front of me. So it is hard to kind of grow past that and to look past that. But when you're living towards resurrection, then you will have that faith that is stronger than any kind of worldly pulls that kind of pull us. They try and pull us back down to earth and say, no, I just worry about that. It's too risky. It's don't do that. But when we have resurrection on our horizon, it lifts us up so that we're freed. John 8:32, the truth will set you free. If we can let go of all the stuff we've been clinging to, then it's kind of like weights that have been holding us down, because we're scared. We're scared what might happen if we let go. But when we let go, then we're free to be blown by the Spirit, and God can call us to wherever God dreams for us. Yeah.
It was like Sunday, we watched the virtual,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not about me. It's not about me.
Yeah.
And it's a much better picture.
Yeah.
If you get stuck off yourself,
Yeah.
and you step out, well, what's the risk? It's hardly there.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to curve this spectrum, because if you're here or if you're here, it's all about you. Because you don't want to get out of the house and risk anything. You just want God to take care of it all. Here it's all about you, because you don't trust anybody else to do anything. You got to take care of it all. And so it's so stressful, because you just don't know if there's enough to go around. But again, letting go and just kind of letting yourself kind of flow. Let's read our yeah.
What's going on with people that say they believe in the resurrection, but they live their life with reactivity and
Yeah.
scarcity.
Yeah.
It seems like both are going on.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one thing to say that you know something is true, but it's another thing to really believe it and live like it. And like I said, it's harder than we recognize to really grow as people in the likeness of Christ, because we have to grow out of our human selves. And we have to grow out of, that childish mindset that we are all born with. We are all born like that. Kids, it's hard for them to learn how to share. And I remember thinking at one time, how old do my children have to be before they realize that there is value in taking turns? And apparently it's not 10, it's not 10 years. It's maybe 12 or so. But all the past 10, 14 years of child rearing, we'd say, in our house we take turns, because they fuss and they cry when they don't get, the whole sharing thing, it's just hard, and it's something we have to learn. And if you grow up in church, you can hear what's true and you can repeat what's true. But letting it really kind of sink down, that's hard. That's hard. And so that's where you'll get kind of the disconnect of some people claiming to believe in a spiritual resurrection, just kind of as an idea. But you can tell that they don't live with a real belief in it. Like the proof is in the pudding, and you can just kind of watch them freak out, and you can see that they're based in the material world. Yeah, good point. Let's read from Mark chapter 8, verse 34 to 36, to get some really convicting words from Jesus. So I'll go ahead and read those, since I forgot to ask for volunteers tonight. So Mark 8, 34 through 36. Then Jesus called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul?" So there we can see, and again, it just makes me picture like us holding on to these weights of our lives that we cling to for dear life. And Jesus is saying, that's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to get you further down, maybe into the grave. But if you can lose it and let it go, then that's when you'll be saved. That's when you'll find your true lives. If we cling to an earthly life, then it's just going to be very limited. And it's just almost like a box. But when we're willing to let go of our life as we want it and allow God's larger vision to inspire us towards resurrection and live through that, when we let that old life die, that's when we come alive, because it is unlimited. And that's why with that mindset we can dream, we can have visions, because our thinking is unlimited. Whereas the mindset of scarcity is by definition limited to just what's right here. But abundance is unlimited. So the life that we need to lose as we practice that, because it's going to take us our entire lives to work on that. The life that we need to lose is the idea that we are in control. We need to let go of thinking that we are self-sufficient and that we need to be and should be in control. And that's both ends of that spectrum. You can hear and feel the control that the people need to have and I say people, but it's us. I mean, we move around. On our worst days, we're going down here on our worst days. I'm not going to pretend I don't when I'm having a really bad day. So when we get down to these extremes, it's about control. And if we're constantly active, it's trying to control everything else so that it goes perfect, or it's best for us, or everything's happening the way we want it to. If we're on the constant stillness side, it's also about control, because you're saying, I'm going to wall off my life because I can control this. I can't control that, so forget about that. That's everybody else's problem. God, I'll let you take care of it. I'll say really strong prayers for all the rest. But right here, I can only control this, so I'm going to be constantly here and constantly still. That's why it does kind of bother me when we're talking about like a tough situation, or somebody's really kind of like in rock bottom or something, and I'll hear someone say, a really good person, they'll say, well, all we can do is pray. And I go, is that all we can do? I don't think that idea is in the Bible, and I really don't think Jesus would have said something like that. If one of Jesus' disciples came up to him and said, Jesus, we got a lot of hungry people. Out here's what, 5,000 of them, they're all hungry, but all we can do is pray. So let's just have a snack. He's going to say, no, that's not all you can do. You can show my love. You can be my hands and feet. You can speak the truth. You can help people. You can give them guidance and support. You can speak a truth that's hard to hear to someone. There's always something you can do, because that's what God calls us to do, our Great Commission, our calling. But to kind of abdicate that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. So if you hear someone say, well, all we can do is pray, you can say, I've got good news, because that's not all we can do. Because God gives us the Holy Spirit. We can do a lot more than just pray. Actually, we can get out there and start showing some love. So that's what we need to work on this week. Recognize that resurrection is hard. That type of mindset is scary. Before we can get it, it's scary to let go, because it's letting go of all we've known, all that gives us comfort. It's scary, so we recognize that, to abandon that illusion of control. It is really just kind of an illusion of having control. Resurrection requires us to acknowledge that there's something bigger out there, even in the unknown, but that's where God calls us to build God's kingdom, and we're all going there together. So we're all in this together, and that goes back to that community of abundance. We're all in this together. We're all going toward that horizon of resurrection, and when we do that, that will take care of a lot of the stress of living at the extremes. You don't have to be stressed about taking care of everything. You don't have to be stressed about what you can't control. You just let that go too. Let go of that stress, the burden of the worry, on whatever side, the extreme you might fall. When we let go, that's when you can really live your best active life. So that's what I encourage you to be thinking about this week. What kind of things do you cling on to maybe a little too tightly? What you need to let go of? Think about yourself, and see if you can kind of envision that curve, as you go through the day, and you can say, gosh, I'm really going this way right now, or gosh, I'm going a little too far this way, and just kind of remember that sweet spot area that goes between prayerful meditation and righteous action, and just kind of move around in there, and just be aware. Just kind of think about that chart and where you end up this week. So we'll say a prayer for here, and we'll pause it for tonight. So let's pray. Well, God, we confess that sometimes your calling just feels risky and scary to us, and too often we just don't let go of the comforts that we think will soothe and protect our lives. So we will need your conviction, oh God. We will need your courage to inspire us to let go of control, and just follow you, follow whatever dream and vision you give for us, so that we can walk with hopeful hearts and feel the abundance of your holy provision in our lives and in others. And by doing so, we will truly model the life and the attitude of your Son. So let that be our prayer for us this week. Inspire and convict us as we proactively follow your call. In your name we pray. Amen.